At the moment, the steam boiler isn't on, as you can see by the E for eco mode. If I wanted to turn it on, which I will do for some other things, it's just a simple press and hold of the left button there, and the E will go off. The boiler will do a quick autofill because now it's activated, it checks its level, and now the steam boiler's on and will begin to heat. So what you've got here, now the steam boiler isn't up to pressure, okay, and I can actually draw hot water. In fact, that's just, it's set to 130, okay, but let's show you the actual pressure is 37 degrees. You can do a double press here and it'll show you the steam boiler pressure. So I'll turn that off again quickly. So steam boiler's not on, there's no pressure in it to drive water out. Normally you can't get hot water from a machine, but the Lelit's a bit special in that you can. And there's the hot water. Just off boiling. So you can actually draw hot water, but it's come out of the brew boiler and been diverted to the hot water spout. It's just off the boil because the water in the brew boiler is actually slightly above boiling with an offset to allow for the drop in temperature as it goes through the group and towards the coffee to give you the right brew temperature. So we've got hot water. It's the only machine I've seen that does it. Yes, of course, you could run hot water out your group. That's normally not ideal and you tend to get a taint to the water, but this actually will run it out of the hot water spout. When the steam boiler is on, it will actually mix the water so you get a much smoother flow without all the splutters of steam. And very quickly, even though it's drawn from the brew boiler, there's a nice powerful element in there, even though it's a small boiler, and it's pretty quickly back up to the temperature we want to brew coffee. I think I've set it to 93. Doesn't take very long to come back up again, and that'll be ready in another moment. Now, while we're waiting for that to heat up, you've a nice heavy portafilter with a beautiful coffee slide. Does a single or a double. They're close enough together to do a single shot espresso, and far enough apart you can put 2 cups under and get a double, which is great. Buttons are all illuminated. That can be turned off if you want, but I never would. And this is probably close to the 93 we set it at now. On the Lelit Control Center, you have the ability to see the temperature of the steam boiler, temperature of the brew boiler, switch the steam boiler on by long press on the left hand button. You can also go through and set your brew temperature higher or lower as you want, to any value from about 87 to 99 or whatever it is. And you can also set the steam boiler to be whatever temperature you want. It'll go up to 145 degrees, which give you very powerful steaming. We'll put it to 140. I've got a cat trying to get in here. And then you can have the timer on. Now this says 45 seconds is my timer. It's off for button 1, just to show you, and 45 seconds for button 2. That means after 45 seconds of pressing button 2, it'll stop. And that's just a good safety thing, but it's well beyond what I'd do for any shot. But it's handy as a safety thing. Then you've got your pre-infusion on button 1 is 10 seconds, and pre-infusion on button 2 is 14 seconds. That pre-infusion time that you can set in the control center, we'll just go to the button 1, I can make it 11 or 12, I'll put it back to 10. That time is comprised of the initial pump run plus the pump pause for either steam infusion or bloom phase. So if the pump run, if it's 10 seconds and the pump run is 3 seconds, the rest of the infusion will be 7 seconds. And you set the total duration of infusion here, and you set the initial pump run in the advanced menu, because that's a parameter you wouldn't change so often. Beyond that, you've got the steam boiler on or off, and you can hear it closing the expansion valve. I rarely turn it on this way. You can change to centigrade or Fahrenheit. And then this shows you the total shots and just some statistics about how many shots you've done. Okay, and back to the beginning. So that's the user functions. These are the functions where you'll use every day, where you'll change, if you want to change brew temperature, you'll just sit there and you'll change your brew temperature just on the fly, or your steam boiler temperature. So they're things you'll use every day. They're functions that are easy to hand. The more advanced functions are accessed by holding in the plus button and the minus button, and with the machine off, have them both held in and power the machine off. If you only have the plus held in, it'll reset all the values within this, which you don't want to do because you'd have to reprogram it. The machine has a pretty good sized drip tray. I'm just going to move that. When I pull the drip tray out, you'll see it actually goes back an awful long way, right back to there. So it's not just the bit you see, it goes right under the machine, and that's quite handy if you're lazy. So that's really a very quick tour of the machine. There's very little to see. The tank's easy to fill. I just move it out, and I use a spouted jug to fill my tanks because I'm lazy. I don't remove them from the machine every time. You can just remove it and fill it. It's a nice, neat machine. It's not very deep. As you can see, next to it is Lelit's brother, the Mara, or sister. And the Mara, as you can see, pokes out a lot more, but is a little bit narrower. So your Mara is probably, if we go back to the Lelit, the Mara is probably about that wide. The Lelit's a little bit wider. And what that gives you, and I'm looking for a tape measure to see if I've got one here. I haven't got a tape measure handy, but let's try this. Just put this on. So the Mara comes up to here. So this Elizabeth is a little bit wider, but it's probably about that much shallower on the counter. It sits really well back, and that can be very important for people who have limited counter space, and it gives you a nice working area. Here it is on a standard counter in front of the machine.